Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons. In the last part we got here to the Dancing Dragon dungeon and now we're gonna continue on. Now we can't quite do anything about those switches. Even if you have the Noble Sword with its sword beam, you cannot touch them at all. They made them not really immune. You can't hit them with the sword beam either way. Though the sword beam is actually really useful for taking out the jumping Stelphos. Is it Stelphos or Stelphos? I can never tell. Now, this is a pretty tricky room. You're gonna need to use the Pegasus seeds here, because if you don't, that falling pit will catch up to you. But over here we get the dungeon item, the Slingshot. Essentially, it's the seed shooter from, Ages, only you can only fire it in the 4 cardinal directions, and you can't hold it. It fires immediately. Don't get me wrong, though, it's still used in quite a few puzzles, and Sense Seeds are honestly the best one for damage and, how quickly it reacts to stuff. The Mystery Seeds are also fairly useful for it. Anyway, what we need to do now is, go back on this thing again. I almost forgot where we were going for a second there. This is a room that can be either really easy or really hard, depending on whether or not you want to use the Pegasus Seeds. Because, like I mentioned multiple times before, and showed multiple times, you can make 2 block jumps with the normal Rock's Feather. It's just really tricky to time. Okay, now remember that what that wise old man said, that what we're looking for is in the eye? Dive right here to find the boss key. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be an eye of. A skull, the gel enemies, I don't know. Either way, that's where it is. This music has always reminded me of something, but I can't tell what. It's, kind of weird like that. Don't you hate it when you have songs like that? They just remind you of something in the very back of your head, but you can't reach what it is. Either way, also, last part, you might remember when we were going through the dungeon, we found these 4 random, well not 4, 3, unlit torches during a minecart ride. Now that we have the Slingshot, we can mix that with Ember Seeds to solve that problem. And don't get the big Goron sword on. Actually, I kind of found well, first off, yeah, just hit these with the Ember Seeds. And I'm gonna cut back towards that chest just for time saving. But one thing I actually find really funny is I got the big Goron sword, yet I can't really use it against this upcoming boss because you can only damage it with the Slingshot. The boss of Dungeon 5, though... no, I still can't do it with that, can I? Anyway, we need to head to that door to the west of us for now, but one thing you can actually do is push that. I didn't know you could actually push that block until, like, playthrough 4, so I was just braving it in with the blade trap, trying not to get hit. And here we have the first appearance of red Wizrobes. These are the ones that teleport around randomly instead of just being in set locations. However, they're not that much harder. In fact, these are the Wizrobes I'm used to fighting from Minish Cap. Because there were only blue ones in Minish Cap, weren't there? Or not blue, green. Because they showed up in the first Wind dungeon, they showed up again in the second one. As a mini-boss before you got the Rock's Cape. Oh, Minish Cap, I love you. Anyway, right here we need the Slingshot with the Ember Seeds, because it's the only way you can really get past there. If you are... Well, actually, if you're good with timing it, you could probably get across with a Pegasus-seeded Rock's Feather jump. Because you can jump 3 panels with that, just barely with pitfalls. Lava, not so much. And here we have a really kind of pointless room, because all it does is delay your time to getting to the boss door. Anyway, time for the boss of the dungeon, who is very familiar. You can barely see its shadow. It's good old Gohma. Very easy boss, actually. The first phase is that you have to slash her claw off. It takes a bit of shots. In fact, I probably could have used the big Goron sword here, but nah. She just constantly slams you. It's nothing that threatening at all, really. And after that, she goes into Zelda 1 mode, where she'll move around somewhat randomly, opening her eye. She fires out these little mini Gohmas or something like that. I don't know what they are. But other than that, the best way to go up against her is to get as close as possible and spam fire the Slingshot. This is 2 games in a row, Gohma. Well, not 2 games in a row, but you get what I mean. 2 games where you're pathetically weak to a Slingshot, Gohma. That's pretty sad. But yeah, she's nothing hard at all. I actually find that fight easier than the Ocarina of Time fight, which is saying something. But for that, we got the Soothing Rain, an essence of nature. Bathed in drops of soothing rain, shoots grow into saplings. You okay? Also, I don't think I've commented on it at this point, but I really like that Essence Get jingle for some reason. Anyway, hello Maker Tree, haven't heard from you in a while because it's been a couple parts since we did Dungeon 3, actually. I too grow in the might under the soothing rain. I had another vision just now. I saw a lake shaped like eyeglasses. That is the only hint you get to the next dungeon, which if you look near Horon Village, right here at Eyeglass Lake, you can probably tell where our next location is. We've actually been in that area before. But first I decided to do Gashinut collection. There's a potion in that one. In this one we got a ring. And in the next one, we got 200 rupees. Now also, this is the only one out of those 3 I replanted. Because I generally get my heart piece from that one, but it's going to take a while still. And now we're actually on the beach down by Horon Village, because we can do something over here now that we have the Slingshot. Namely, reach that torch down there with an Ember Seed. Note, you are required to do this whether or not you're playing the game first or second. It's just that I do it now. Face the right direction, thank you. Anyway, use a mystery seed on this random-ass question mark, really. And... oh my god, no! Dead. Yeah, they just throw a random mini-moldrum at you, and you get an X-shaped jewel, or cross-shaped. That's the next of the 4 gems. And you can't get the 4th one until after this next dungeon, so yeah. Anyway, now we're back over towards where we need to go. Note, you can technically do Dungeon 5 before Dungeon 4 because you can get Autumn if you play, or get Autumn earlier if you know what you're doing. So this game actually does technically have some amount of Zelda 1 sequence breaking in it. Anyway, we need it to be Autumn for this, so get that out, or make it so. Slash, if it's not obvious enough, there's a Gacha Soil segment right there. I also can tend to get my heart piece there. And we're already at Dungeon 5. Yeah, I will admit, while it still has some stuff in between dungeons like Ages did, it has nowhere near the amount, whereas in between every dungeon in Ages, they had like a mini subplot. Either way, welcome to Level 5, Unicorn's Cave. This was actually one of my least favorite dungeons when I was a kid, purely because if I couldn't... well, first off, I was one of those kids that sucked at Zelda games as a kid, fairly obviously by this point, really. Like, the farthest I could make it in Ocarina was Forest Temple, don't even get me started on Majora's Mask. But this was the farthest I could make it in this one as a kid. In Ages, the farthest I could make it was... oof. Dungeon 4? I want to say? Either way, we need to push that block now because it'll save us some time later. Also, I love the music here. Then again, while I think Ages has the overall better soundtrack, I think Seasons has better dungeon themes and dungeon design, well, for the most part, really. While the puzzles aren't as interesting, the dungeons themselves are more, so... Although I will admit, it does kind of overdo the cart riding at the beginning of it, as you can plainly see. Oh, that's one thing I forgot you could actually do, is kill enemies with the minecart. I don't know why I always forget that happens. Maybe it's because, well... from my the time I used to play Minecraft, that I knew that the minecarts were very vulnerable? That's probably it, actually. Anyway, we got the return of the thwomps. You know, I kind of wish they made an upset face when you were standing on them. Nope, no such thing. In fact, the only game you can kill enemies by jumping on them, downward stab aside, is, Link's Awakening, actually, if I recall correctly. Anyway, we get bubbles here much earlier than in the first game, because we didn't get them until Dungeon 6 in the ages. Like in the classic Zelda games, if you get hit by them, you will be stunned from using your sword for a bit. And here's the dungeon map, which is thankfully only one floor. It's just huge. That's the thing with seasons, rather, is that, well, actually more of the Game Boy Color duology in general, is that if the dungeons are one floor, they're generally large, but if they're multi-floors, the floors are generally fairly small. Jabu Jabu's belly notwithstanding. Or Ancient Tomb. No, Ancient Tomb's floors were really small, never mind. Anyway, it's here we actually already get our dungeon item, because we're kind of trapped in, so there's no other thing to do. Then get the magnetic gloves. This is actually one of my favorite items in the Zelda history. What it does is that it sets to a polarity. Every time you press the button, you use it, and when you let go, it sets to the next polarity. Magnetic properties still apply. North attracts south, south attracts north, and south repels south, and north repels north. You may have noticed throughout Subrosia, especially, in certain places in normal overworld, these little metal stakes with an S on them. You need these to be attracted or be repelled from them. The only really bad part about the item is the sound effect it makes. I hate that grating sound. Anyway, now we need to bomb this because, well, progression's down here. Note, if you did this early, you can still get back up to that ladder just using a good timed jump with the Rock's Feather. In fact, I think you're required to do that later on, but don't quote me on that. Because admittedly, while I might have used a walkthrough in certain sections of Ages, Seasons here has been mostly off memory. Mostly, keyword. I can barely ever remember a Dancing Dragon dungeon for some reason. Anyway, this is a pretty simple puzzle that a lot of Zelda games have. When you push one thing on your side, on the other side, that moves the opposite direction. You just need to move it the way I did, and you get access to the next room. And we also got Gibdos again. Like in the last game, they don't suffer knockback from your hits, and they take a lot of damage. And up here, we actually get a really oddly designed treasure chest, because it's 100 rupees. I don't get that, but okay. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 12, we'll be continuing on in the Unicorn's Cave. See you guys then.